When you think of Sony, you probably think of game consoles, cameras, televisions, or even blockbuster movies. But behind the global tech giant is a story of creativity, courage, and constant reinvention. This is the fascinating journey of how Sony became a symbol of innovation, not just in Japan, but around the world. The story begins in Tokyo, Japan, in 1946. In the aftermath of global challenges, two men, Masaru Ibuka, an engineer, and Akio Morita, a physicist, came together with a shared dream. They started a small company with just a handful of employees and very little money. But they had something more powerful: a vision. Their business was originally called Tokyo Tsushin Kogyo, which translates to Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Company. It wasn't exactly catchy, but the mission was clear: to build products that used cutting-edge technology to improve everyday life. In the early years, they repaired radios, made simple devices, and reinvested every bit of profit back into research and development. One of their first major products was a tape recorder, a rare and expensive device at the time. They called it the Type G, and it was one of the first tape recorders built in Japan. But the breakthrough came in the mid-1950s when the team learned about transistors, a new type of component that could replace vacuum tubes. At the time, transistors were mainly used in military or industrial equipment. But Morita and Ibuka had another idea. What if you used transistors to build small, portable radios? So they did. And in 1955, they launched Japan's first transistor radio, the TR-55. A year later, they introduced the TR-63, a palm-sized radio that would become a huge success in the American market. It was reliable, affordable, and, most importantly, portable. This was a major moment. It showed that Sony could not only invent new technology, but also market it to the world. Realizing the need for a name that was easier to pronounce internationally, they officially changed the company's name to Sony in 1958. The name was inspired by the Latin word sonus, meaning sound, and also from the slang word sunny, representing youth and energy. From there, Sony kept pushing forward. In the 1960s, they introduced Japan's first videotape recorder. In the 1970s, they launched the Trinitron TV, a major leap in color television technology. But it was in 1979 that Sony created a product that would completely change how people listen to music. Enter the Sony Walkman, a portable cassette player small enough to fit on your belt. For the first time, music could go with you anywhere. On the street, in the gym, on a train, your soundtrack was now completely personal. The Walkman became a cultural icon and sold hundreds of millions of units over the decades. It was more than a gadget. It was a symbol of freedom and individuality. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, Sony expanded aggressively. They entered the movie and music industries, acquiring companies like CBS Records and Columbia Pictures. Sony was no longer just a hardware company, it was becoming a full entertainment powerhouse. Then, in 1994, came another game-changing product, the Sony PlayStation. Originally developed in partnership with another company, but later turned into a solo project, the PlayStation redefined home gaming. With advanced graphics, immersive gameplay, and a massive library of titles, it quickly became a global sensation. The success of PlayStation gave Sony an entirely new identity, as a leader in gaming. Over the next few decades, with consoles like the PlayStation 2, 3, 4, and now PlayStation 5, Sony became one of the most powerful players in the video game world. But what makes Sony truly unique is its ability to evolve. The company isn't afraid to take risks, launch bold products, or rethink its entire strategy. From TVs and music players to film studios and game consoles, Sony has constantly adapted to new markets and new generations. It's also one of the few companies that successfully blends technology and entertainment under one roof. You can watch a movie made by Sony Pictures, listen to music by Sony artists, play games on a Sony console, and experience it all on a Sony TV, all part of the same ecosystem. Today, Sony is a multinational giant with products in virtually every part of modern life, from imaging sensors used in smartphones to AI research, electric vehicles, and beyond. But at its heart, it remains true to the spirit of its founders, a company driven by curiosity, creativity, and bold ideas. Masaru Ibuka and Akio Morita once believed that Japanese technology could reach the world stage, and they proved it. They didn't just build a brand, they built a legacy that continues to inspire innovators across the globe. So the next time you power on your PlayStation or hear that iconic Sony startup sound, remember, it all started with two dreamers in Tokyo, a big idea, and a tiny transistor.